short introduction to the readings for Tuesday. On Tuesday, we'll be reading about communicating about climate change. You may have seen a New York Times article or an article in the media on Saturday or Sunday of this week discussing how the White House and the federal government have released a new 1,600-page report about the impacts of climate change as we move forward in this century. It's quite a compelling case that they're making. And the president himself has dismissed it and made fun of it. In fact, the White House released the report on Friday, on Black Friday, as a way to kind of bury it in the news cycle. So it's a really appropriate time for us to talk about this notion of communicating about climate change. And we'll be reading a chapter from one of my favorite thinkers on this topic, Suzanne Mosier from Stanford, and her PhD student, Kara Brzezinski. They start off recognizing there's a significant challenge with the growing politicalization and the ideological polarization of climate change. Discussing this topic can be a very threatening thing. They ask, are there openings for meaningful and constructive communication among people who differ about this topic? Well, I think that's a very healthy question, isn't it? Are there ways that we can actually grapple with this topic from people who are at different points in the political spectrum or who disagree about it? That's very challenging. So as you're doing the reading, I've got a few questions to prompt your thinking, and I'd like you to be able to come to class on Tuesday with some notes or thoughts about the following questions. First, how would you summarize American attitudes about climate change currently? What do the polls tell us that Americans believe? Second, what is this notion of the missing middle? The missing middle. Who are these people? Do they really exist? How do Mosier and Brzezinski suggest that these folks might be better engaged in a conversation or discussion about climate change? And what's this notion of a discourse continuum? Does this framing make sense to you, a discourse continuum? And finally, what do the authors suggest is the way that we move forward? Is it really about dialogue? Why would people who disagree participate in a dialogue around this topic? So that's the chapter. That's the first reading below, and then below that I've linked the New York Times articles that came out on Saturday that describes this new report. There's also a couple of optional readings that you may find useful as you prepare your presentation in the coming couple of weeks, the presentation for paper 4. So hope you're well. Look forward to seeing you on Tuesday. See you then. Bye.